All right, now let's do this, because this is important. All right, I'm going to run through a few slides. What I'm doing here, all right, I'm going to reiterate the direction we set early last year for things we are doing. It's not just haphazard come in and show trades. We're doing lessons. We decided we were going to structure our learning of trading and markets. Do you guys remember that? Sometime maybe December or September or November, one of those months. We decided we were going to build things out and we were going to come up with some structured ways for learning. Yeah, late last year. Okay, good. You remember it. And for those of you that are new, we kind of set a direction. We said, all right, you know what? We're going to build almost like a trading course school structure thing, and we're going to do it live. I'm not just going to do all the work and say, here, do this. So we're going to suss this out live, and we're going to have a direction rather than say, oh, this has a statistic, or that has a statistic, and this has magic. Because I don't want anybody to think that a particular trade just comes with 20 years experience. You get the experience by learning certain things. So even if you guys remember the direction we set, I'm going to go back over it again. The whole idea is to structure our learning in some way, but not make it too tight. So let me just go over this and tell you how we set it up, just to remind you. What I've done, we have a bunch of different methods. Think about a method is, okay, we're going to use gaps, or we're going to use swings, or we're going to use fibs, or we're going to use median lines, or we're going to use V's, right? And just use that. That's a method. It's a form. It's one particular method. Now, I've built out a dozen. These are a few of them. And the big thing I wanted to get across was the importance wasn't in the method itself. See, that's where everybody in trading gets sucked in. This method is this. Believe in this method. It's got statistics. This method is the Holy Grail. No method actually works, but people get sucked in. This is the magic secret pattern. Everybody's making money. There's nothing wrong with these methods and these patterns. There's actually nothing wrong with fibs and Gann. There's nothing wrong with this stuff. I like to base my methods off of principles and swings and supply-demand. So my methods are a little bit more price-based and organic. But the main point is, it's not the method that's important. It's what the method does for how you see markets. Like, did you see how I was looking at the ES? I was kind of relaxed using a very simple method. It was focused. It was objective. It wasn't a system, but it was a very simple thing that let me get rid of all of the all the craziness and let me relax so I can see a trade. So built into this design, I decided to build in a lot of the internal stuff people talk about and just build it straight in rather than, read books about psychobabble and all of that. And it's a learning and doing. But for Phil, for learning and doing, we have to have some objective ways to do it, right? And so that was our goal. I think it was a new member asked a question, right? How do I build a morning routine or something? Yes, I've had the experience of relaxing through the method. You've had that, Grace. Yes, good. A lot of people tell me, oh, wow, and then boom, it clears up, right? So first it takes me for a while, and it probably takes you a while to hear me, that it's not the method that's really important. But I've got a bunch of them. I've got probably 80 setups that I've documented and worked on. So let me go through this, okay? So I'm calling a method a framework. It's a way to hold the market. It's a viewfinder, a way to view the market and take the noise out. All right, so we build a framework or a structure to see the market, and then we have freedom within that structure. All right, the various frameworks and methods are designed to enable personal insight and real learning. That's the goal, so that the method teaches you, or it helps price teach you. Personal insight, that needs to be highlighted. Because without personal insight into the matter, you're just believing something I say. So this was a very important thing for me when I decided to design, say, this type of structured learning. You know, I thought this out. I worked it out. We did a lot of it live, thanks to you guys. I would have never gotten this far without that. And then when it's done, we do PowerPoints and we say, hey, look, we have this thing. Now, the thing is, not every method's going to jive with everybody. That's one of the reasons I use a bunch of them. You know, everybody's running at a different mood and thought process and frequency. You know, for some people, this 1, 2, 3 expansion is just going to freak them out. That had to do with that little minor swing going into a major swing, and it's going to cause you tense. It's not going to be your way. Doesn't mean you can't learn all about it, but it's not something that's going to work for you. But gaps and mountains might really work for you, okay? So this is the other thing that's been missing in trading. It's turned into, all trading schooling, teaching, is turned into sort of a dogma. Do it this way. This is the way. Flying C's the secret sauce, Edward. He's asking about Flying C's. This was one of my first secret sauces. It's a median line method, by the way. It goes into flying U's and K's and everything. It's not something I've done here much because people tend to get a little carried away with it. But I usually do it with students, you know, on their second round or something. But it's a framework. But if expansions aren't your thing, maybe this is your thing. Maybe somebody else really jives with expansions. And so we each have a different way about us. And that's important, not to say, this is the way, this is the way, do this always. Just like with money management, there's no one absolute thing. We talked about that Friday. And it's the same thing. There's no one absolute holy grail. You will actually, depending on your temperament, gravitate to one or the other. And that's important to have that choice. You can learn them all, and you will learn plenty just by learning them all, because we'll build them all out. We're going to build all of these out here. We actually built this one, didn't we? We built this one pretty much all the way out. And so we're going to keep doing that kind of thing, building these as we go. But I'm kind of giving you a way to hold all this. It really doesn't matter which method you trade with. So, for instance, on that ES, I was just using balanced, reaction legs. It was really that simple. I can mix it with the pivot components and come up with a trade. So, again, I'm trying to set the attitude. The purpose and objective for each framework, each method, it's all about learning, all right? It's a reference point to map, orient, ground yourself to price flow, to use the framework as a vehicle for learning, to use it as a vehicle for learning, not be used by it. It's all about price, okay? Trading your tools. I got to reword that. Huh? It's about yourself, price, your tools. We're going to learn. I want you to learn about price, want you to learn about your tools, and want you to learn about yourself through the method. That's how it's designed. So we're going to use significant supply-demand things and spread things out, pulling the noise out of the market, just like we did with that ES. We pulled the noise out just by looking at swings. We didn't have to look at a million things, and we just saw waves. That's all I see. I saw waves. Simple focus will relax your mind in trading. Relax is the key. The other thing the methods are going to do, just by working on them. They're going to train, like we've been doing with swings, in isolating and being able to see for yourself relative structures. These are like push-ups. You just, by doing this, you keep learning more and more about relative structures. Over and over and over. Hey, Rita. I'm happy to have found one framework that I understand and can work with. I'm happy not to go back and forth, including many things, which is confused. Good. That's good. See, you found something, and you can go and just use that and not go back and forth and do. But at some point, Rita, as you get a really good handle on that, you might be able to actually, to your advantage, maybe include a gap with it without getting confused. You see, as you learn and as you train, you might be able to add at your own rate anything that might help you. You don't have to, but you can stick with that. And then what I suggest you do whenever I'm teaching something else other than what you're stuck on, you just kind of listen and hold it in the palm of your hand, right? And learn the price action stuff and learn what I'm saying and help you, frame it in your frame. And it will help you one way or the other, because all of the things I'm teaching about, I'm planting seeds all along the way about price, about the internal stuff. But Rita said it right. You find something and boom, because this is about you making money in the end. I'm grateful that you're teaching it in this way. Yes, good. And I'll go back over that method and we'll learn some more about it, right? And maybe here's one of the things that happens, Rita, and I want this to happen to everybody. Me too, right, Phil? So I'm good. This structure has been doing some of the things. Here's what I want to happen with the simple methods. See, all of these are really simple, Rita. They're all pretty objective. They're very simple. One's not for you. One might be for you. But here's what happens with the simple. If you keep following the simple like those little swings, and you stick with that one thing, eventually it starts to whisper secrets to you that you weren't hearing before. Say, I never saw that before. It was right in front of me. You get that? Exactly, right, Phil? If you keep your attention on the simple thing, it starts to whisper secrets. You see, the balanced swing, I've been doing swings since the beginning, and I'm still learning. Gina says, it's funny how I've watched you present pivots a number of times, and all of a sudden I'm now just getting it. Yes, that happens, and that's why these lessons are helpful, Gina, because at one point you're not ready to hear it. But as you work your butt off, and I know you work your butt off, and you get more experience, maybe next week you're ready to hear something that you didn't hear before. And as you get more experience, learning, then you hear something I repeat that you didn't hear before. Grace gets it, yes. So that's what we're doing, and that's why I don't just, email the framework in. We need time to process. And so all of this is structured around that, and I'm glad it's coming across. I appreciate your feedback on that. I use a few other things, Rita says, but I'm doing it as I use it for. Yes, lots of seeing. Good. So let's keep going on. So we're going to train in these relative structures, and it will start to whisper its secrets. Pretty soon, Rita, you'll see something that you weren't even trying to see. That's the beauty. You weren't even trying to see something like a tail that's a mountain, and all of a sudden wow, there it is. See, it'll fall in your lap. And that's how this works. Or presses, same thing. And the other objective is to teach you to set yourself aside and follow price. We talked about that with that ES. And ultimately, we want to learn from price itself. I'm a guide. Price can teach you everything. Rita says, all good to any new people. Stick around at least 2 or 3 months if this resonates with you at all, and it gets deeper every time with more insight. That's right. You got to stick around because I take a little bit getting used to, huh? You might spend a few months saying, what is this guy talking about? Nah, thank you, Grace. It takes a while. I mean, the trading education thing has really got people wrapped in knots. All right, so each framework, here's another important aspect. Each framework that we build out, this is how it's all very natural. These principles will run through any of these. It's not you have to mix and match, and this is special. This will run through every single one. Relative, minor, major, and bar level. Continued behavior or change in behavior. 3 basic types of trades in the try. Process. Everything moves in process. We talked about that a few minutes ago. You follow it in process. It will have a beginning, just like a pivot, a center, and an end, and components that make up that process. So although seg presses seem simple, you guys see that it was quite involved in the end with that simple thing, and it takes practice. It's more because my teaching isn't linear. Yeah, we can't do linear dogmatic teaching. It won't apply. It won't apply. And so these frameworks, they're learning vehicles rather than systems. If you approach it as a system, and I'm already going to tell you, you're going to approach it as a system. That happens. It's just natural. You just got to back yourself out of that. You got to get disappointed in the system and back yourself out of it. But just know that's why I'm spending so much time right now. That the vehicle was designed with the simple rules and objective to enable personal learning. I'm just saying that these are different paths up the same mountain. Find one that resonates. So any questions on this? This whole sort of school-type structure. And if you're new, you can email me. And if you're not sure, it will come out as we do the lessons. But this is sort of let's set our foundations again. So when we're doing swings and tails or whatever, we're not just, does this work or does this not work? You need to have this behind everything we're doing. All right, no questions? Good? Phil says lots of practice. So remember, this is one of the interesting parts here, the principles. They run through everything. If a principle doesn't apply to the ES chart, but it applies to the euro, it's not a principle. Right? It doesn't run through everything. It's not a common thread. If relative doesn't apply to V's the same way it applies to balance, it's not a common thread. If I can't do the 3 basic types of trades on each one of these, it's useless. It's just a situational thing, and let people argue about if it works or doesn't work. And everything will have a process. It has no choice. We're born, we grow, we die. Everything. Nothing lasts forever. The strongest buildings don't last forever. Nothing lasts forever. And so these are important principles that we talk about that run through it all. So I just have a few more slides here to give you the overview of this whole thing. So here I just take the principles in a little bit more detail. Everything is continued or change in behavior. We just looked at that in the end. It's still continuing. And this relates to structures or lines. Continued behavior is behavior that is repeating or stays the same. There's some sort of organization to it. It's a contraction. Contract, expand, contract, expand. There's some sort of agenda. And by knowing that, the market just formed up in something I can see. It's not chaos anymore. That little piece right there, that if you can do that, can help straighten you out. Entropy, yes, Gina. Good. You see this. Change, it's easy. When it quits doing that, it's a type of expansion. And we can talk about this for hours, but I'm just going to go through. Process. Everything is in swings or cycles, a series of actions or steps taken in order to achieve a particular end. If you're going to build a chair, it starts with 1 leg, 2 leg, 3 leg, 4 leg, a seat, a backrest. It's not a chair until it's done. If you just have 1 leg, it's a baseball bat. And if you have a baseball bat with 1 leg, you can help Edward with his discipline. Beginning, center, has everything to do with median lines and process. And as we learn the components and the process, we can make decisions along the way. See the result. See if you can hear what I'm saying here. The result is a small part of the whole process. You don't know until it's done. I would think that one of the biggest problems, internal problems in our trading, is that we leap from here to the result of the end of the trade without going through the process. And this disconnects us. Yep. You get that, Edward? That's a very important thing. It's been written about in 100 ways. It's been written about in, sports advancements. Basically, what I'm saying, Grace, is that one of the biggest problems we have in trading or doing something skillfully is we put our focus on the result. So we put our focus, before we're doing anything, right, we put our focus on the result of a wash and rinse. So we're thinking here, and then we miss everything that's happening along the process. And like I said, this has been written about. It's the same thing as saying, you're going after the goal, putting the cart before the horse, and you miss everything. I forget what it was. Some famous pitcher that said, basically what he did, he didn't concentrate on the strike. He said, all right, I have to wind up. I have to do that right. I have to reach back. I have to step right. I have to ground my foot right. And he followed this in process. And by his mind following the process, he was able to be present with what he was doing rather than just thinking, I need to throw a strike. And he was a world-class pitcher. And he was describing how he did it. He says, you got to do one thing before the next. If I'm thinking about the catcher's mitt, I'm going to screw up my stance or my grounding or something. And so this is a very important thing. It's expectations. Go jumping ahead to the result, being in Tahiti while you're in New York. See, I say it here, you can't be where you're not. We can talk for an hour on this, on the internal side of that. And actually the frameworks are a way to relax that. Following a wash and rinse in process is a way to relax that real time. Following a press in process is a way to relax that in real time. So I'm not just telling you, don't do this. I'm giving us ways to practice it. And that's an important part of this whole structure. I'm not just saying, oh, don't do that. What good does that do anybody? I'm going to do it anyways. So we need to have ways to practice with this to actually see, oh, look, if I pay attention to what I'm doing, I have to do this before I do that. Don't skip that step just because I think it's, insignificant. And pretty soon you're acting very skillfully, very precisely. Your sloppiness starts to leave you. You don't need the hardcore disciplines. Got it? Thank you. All right. See, it takes me a while to answer you. Relative distinctions. All right. This is still part of the principles. Everything will have a major and minor. Median lines have a major and minor. And bar level, sloped, and horizontal. So we're going to isolate those. It runs through every framework. All this runs through every framework. And the three types of trades is something we go over. Type 1, type 2, So this is just a little more on that. Now, as we move forward, okay, I've kind of set up the design and the frameworks and all that. As we move forward, we will build live a presentation for all of these things that have to do with trading. See, trading actually, although we can make it simple with some things, there's a lot involved. And you can't just do it all at once and jump to the result. To actually plan the trade, find the entry, manage the stop, track your results. How do I document? How do I keep track? How do I practice? It's a whole real training, not just here's the secret pattern. So what we're doing, and we have been doing, see, we've been doing this, right? We're building presentations out for each of these things. A whole presentation just for continued and changing behavior. A whole presentation for process. A whole presentation for the 3 types of trades. A whole presentation to talk about relative structures. Because if we see a tail, we also want to know that that tail is a mountain. A whole presentation for the pivot requirements and learning the language of price. You see me do a little bit of this each week. So I mix in a little bit of all this stuff, and then we sort of pick something and spend, 2-3 weeks, a month at it. A whole presentation just for median line tools. You see, we talk about this stuff a little bit during the week in live markets. And then we have our structured lessons where we take one thing apart for a month. There will be reference keys, right? We'll build those. Like we have all the reference things you guys see in reference charts in Slack, we built those out live, talking about it. And so that's how it helps sink in. There will be a presentation on this side about how to practice. And I mentioned some of that in the big press structure presentation at the end. But it needs its own isolated thing. Do you see how I'm isolating little things to focus on them one at a time? That's part of a structured way of learning all of this. Sure, I can show you the trades like the member asked and my thinking behind it. But my thinking behind it actually includes all of this. Training also. And we're not going to do this in one day or 2 days or in a weekend workshop. These things, I need to do them. I need to ask you, do you understand? You say no. I say, all right, let's go see it another way. I ask you, do you understand? You say yes. Somebody emails me. I don't get that. I say, all right, let's go look at it. Now let's go look at it in different ways. Here's the model. Let's go look at it in different markets, in different situations. And we build experience that way. So how to practice, that's a biggie. Because if we don't know how to learn and how to practice in an efficient way, then, we're just sort of sliding over everything. I can teach you the framework, I can teach you the pattern, I can teach you the flying C. But more important would be how to practice with that flying C. And Edward, you've been big on that. I know, we've emailed back and forth. A presentation on how to design a mooring routine. Even the spell checker doesn't help me, huh? That is built for you and your unique needs. That's pretty bad when the spell checker turns me down. Boy. We're doing a little bit of this right now, right? How to design sort of a practice routine. We started that last week. A whole presentation on journal work, and we do that, I don't know, we do that here every few months. You've been turned down by worse. You've been kicked out of worse places, huh? You've been kicked out of better places than this. So the journal work, we do some of these sessions every few months. The trade planning, the documentation. It deserves its own little section. I did a whole seminar on this. And then, there's the whole internal aspects of trading and how to practice with them towards mastery. We get into, it's not as mysterious as it sounds. It's just basically, we use some of the tools to relax ourselves. Then we need to learn about risk management options. We did a little bit of that Friday. And very important, notice I say your own. This can't be linear. This can't be dogma. This one size fits all, because everybody's different. And everybody is going to bring their own crazy to the markets. And so you need to know how to, number one, spot your crazy with the journal work. And then number two, find ways to design your own discipline. See, somebody like Edward, he's gone through this whole show until he's worked it out and knows himself very well and has designed very good disciplines, but they're not one size fits all for everybody. But just that work is incredible work, and it shows his professionalism, even though you got to hit him with a bat now and then. But you can see he's relaxed with it all. But he's got a lot of work into all of this, many years. So we need to be able to do some of that and learn how to do some of that. Your issue isn't going to be my issue. One person's issue is going to be chasing a market. Another person's issue is going to be afraid to enter a market. And so we need to learn ways to design, almost like prescriptions around that kind of a thing. Lots of learning and working on being centered. Yeah, that's a daily practice, isn't it? All right, so individual things we build out as we go. So I'm just trying to, especially the new people, give them the direction we're going. We hit a little bit of all of this all week long, and then we usually focus on something. Right now, we're focusing on some, easy morning routine. And eventually this thing will build out into a big, nice, easy, simple thing. So here's I put some examples. Rather than build a whole presentation, I'm just going to show you some examples. I did some examples. So for instance, if we're talking continued behavior, this is the recent market we looked at. This is the pound. It's real easy, right? Same size swing. Continued. You get two of them in a row, it's an agenda. How do you spot that? Is it objective? Is it simple? Yes. It's not an immediate method says you immediately get long, but it does tell you the facts, Jack. Something happened. Woo. It's a very simple way to see things. And it's a lot easier than all the people hanging on the Brexit news trying to figure out who knows what they're talking about. Because I can make it easy for you. None of them know what they're talking about. None of them. That whole Brexit thing was priced in years and years and years ago. Markets discount the future, guys. Get off the news. We can use the same principle with V's. Doesn't have to be swings. This is why I'm saying it goes into all frameworks. If we're using a V framework, oh, look, I've got two V's that make new lows and hold. That's continued. Oh, look, it changes. Now I'm more set on making decisions, and I can come in and I can say, all right, do I have a stop? Do I have there's a big tail, there's a gap, there's a confirmation pivot. Do I have something there? There's a little swing, and I can make a decision off of that based on what price is telling me. It's so dead simple to listen to what price is telling us. It's such a simple idea to listen to them and not you, but yet it's so hard to do. And so, we keep going in that direction. This is just a quick slide of one of the principles, 3 types of trades. That's all I'm doing now. I'm just doing sort of a quick overview. I want everybody to see at least a quick overview. We have a push trade. This applies to all frameworks. See, I put 2 different frameworks here, a gap and swings. Means we're pushing the market. And I did a blog on some of this also. We have a type 2, means we're expanding. And by the way, this is where that little median line Michael was talking about comes in to capture the minor expansion. So Michael's got quite the eye for all the stuff. And then there's a number 3, just a flat out reverse. And it's good. Like we watched gold do this live. It's very interesting, huh? On a weekly chart. It's important for us to get skin in the game and see it live. And then we have the try. And all I did down here was list them. Hey, Pete, is this available in the reference charts or on market geometry? This, I think it's in reference charts. If not, I'll put it in there. I think it's in there. But I also did a blog post on some of this. And don't worry, we'll be going over it again in detail. We'll hit these things in more detail and see if they got more secrets we haven't got out of them yet. We went over these gap tries for like ever until we got sick of them. So, Pete, you're kind of new, but you'll see that, If you don't be in too much of a rush, because then you kind of jump to the result of, I'm a big trader before you, learn all the little steps. It's important that we set foundations along the way. I know it's not popular to slow everybody down this way, but I found it's necessary for learning, especially for me. And here is a slide we built when we were talking about process. And this is, again, how you can get your mind to quit jumping to the result and follow the process in real time. If you understand and follow that, it keeps you up to date and present, real time, and understanding your options. And I just draw a little example. You have a coil. A coil turns into a gap. A gap can turn into a mountain. A mountain in process can turn into a wash. 3 gaps in a row, and I'm not calling it 3-gap attack, guys. That was their name for it. I call it an alley-oop. 3 gaps in a row is telling you we've just reversed. And it's the same thing as a median line that gets to the median line and zooms it. You guys see that? See, there's an understanding that comes with the work we do. See this boom boom, this wash that doesn't wash? It's a median line set. See, this is a swing, a mountain and a valley. A mountain and a valley. It's this. This is this. And it takes some practice to see that automatically. When I see that, I also see this. When I see this, I also see that. And if it zooms, I see that. If it zooms here, I see Andrew's basic rule. Zoom the median line, you're liable to retest. It's all a lot of information, but it's not so bad if we take it slow. So this is just a little thing on process. That's all. The 3 types of trades go into a process. And then relative, this is a very simple thing on the relative principle. Here I'm just using swings, but we can use relative gaps. We can use a tail is the same as a mountain. If we're talking relative, which will take some training, you'll eventually be able to see that this is an inside bar and this is an outside bar. See this? You'll eventually be able to see that this is an inside bar and this is an outside bar. See this? I'm glad you left my relatives off that diagram. Yeah, right? But this is what's possible with the work. You don't have to look at outside bars relative, but the understanding, like Rita says, she's focused on one thing. But Rita, if you just sort of soak these in, it's going to saturate you anyways without you having to focus on it. And it will come into that little bit of a subtle understanding of a trade, that little bit of a intuition part of a trade that we don't fully understand. That intuition just doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from relaxing and understanding and doing some work, and it just sort of soaks. So that's relative also. We want to also, we want to understand that a tail is basically a mountain. 2 tails is a valley, is a swing. So I'm rolling over this fast. This is why we will end up spending time with it. This is just an example of a framework. This is what we completed last month. All right, this is just an example. This is the front page of it. And you'll see it comes with some easy to follow instructions. And even if you're new, I think you will have access to those recent recordings. But it comes with some instructions and some notes and objectives and some information. But it's easy, right? Identify 2 swings. Do it on a bar level. Each has the 3 types of trades. So this is an example of a particular framework we were calling presses. And so this will be like our front page for presses. And then we'll go and we'll learn all about them. And we'll do that again. We've done that once with this one. We did it in pretty good detail. This is another example we built out live that we'll do again of gaps and mountains. It's an example of a framework. So don't break your brain on these right now. It's just an example. Some simple instructions, minor and major, right? 3 types of trades, the try. It helps that I've been obsessed with this stuff for 20 years and have looked at every inch of it, and I can guide us through seeing the simple of it and get you to see the simple of it. It's just boom, boom. If you look at what I did on the pound this weekend, it's this. The pound just happened to hit the minor and roll rather than the major. Just go back to earlier in the session. It's this. Contract, expand, contract. Let's see what else I got. Okay, this is more of me beating you over the head, that's all. Saying it's not a system. It's just saying there's 2 really, if I break it all down, there's 2 main parts to all of the teaching that I'm doing. One is learning the instruction technical aspect. This is a median line, this is a tail, this is a wash, okay? That's one aspect. It's hard enough. The other aspect is, the internal, the discovery aspect, how to learn and learn from price flow. And I've been talking about that all along here. And this is something we built out in like December or something. Principles, train, so on and so forth. You hear me just beat on the learning aspect here. Learn how to learn from everything, from me, from being stopped out. Take your training into life, from going to your target, from frustration, from getting mad at your kid. Learn it from everything. It all goes into trading. There is no trading life and separate life, guys. Everything you do in life is a trade. You trade your time for this, to be here. You trade your money for that. You trade work for this. Everything, you buy a house. You go to the movie instead of do this. Everything is a trade. It's just that here we pay close attention and do 3 to 1 and all that good stuff. And I think we'll finish up with this. This is just sort of the end goal and things broken down, okay? This is just sort of the big framework and what we've been doing and working towards. What I've done here is say, all right, we want some sort of mastery. There's some operating principles that have to do with price. There's some operating principles that have to do with trading. And there's some operating principles that have to do with skill. Each one of these principles breaks down, and that's part of what the rest of this presentation was, breaks down into different distinctions. The language of price, all right, trading principles, appropriate flow, stop and exit. Skill principles. See, I'm getting a little funny here. If you want to make a nice grilled cheese, you can't do it any way you want it. You have to adhere to what grilled cheese demands. You got no choice in the matter. That's actually a profound thing to think about. If you want to make the best dish in the world, you can't do it any way you feel like it. Taste has to be the ultimate arbiter there. So this is just sort of a breakdown. You do need cheese, right? You got to start with cheese, Gina. Same thing if you're making soup, right? Things need to be balanced. If the salt doesn't say, hey, you didn't put enough of me in there. Or it says, wait a minute, there's more water. You need more of me. See, it doesn't argue. You missed what, Grace? Making grilled cheese? I'm just saying mastery and skill, you don't get to have it your way. You have to adhere. If you're making grilled cheese or soup, you have to adhere to what taste demands for grilled cheese and soup. And it's the same with a trade. You can't just do it your own way. You have to adhere to the principles of doing something skillfully. And that is listening to what's there, correcting yourself and aligning yourself, getting in rhythm with what's there, and then joining in. Same thing with making grilled cheese sandwiches or soup. All right, so that's enough of all that. I don't know what else we got going here. That's enough of all that. So that was just another pivot requirements, all kinds of stuff going on. That was just another way to get us grounded again as to what we're doing. Okay? That's all. We include a little bit of everything in the lessons, but we spend time on each one of these as we go, and I make time for it, like we did with the presses. Right now we're doing a little bit on, just simple balanced swings, minor and major. Any questions? And just by doing this, you have a way to set yourself up with markets and see and apply the lesson going forward, or get over here in this tick chart and apply the lesson to this oil market going forward. There's going to be extra little details and humps to work out, like, how much data and all of that. What's a major swing? What's a minor swing? And, we can talk about all that. We can work with all of that. All right. Appreciate you, Edward. I appreciate the questions, and I appreciate you guys getting on board with this, last year and learning this way. And it'll eventually come out into something very structured, right? We're not done. Thanks, Mark. So we'll see you guys on Wednesday. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks, Grace, Gina. And if you have any questions, just email me.